Deep inside the mine, Thomas went up and down, round and about, and the water rolled around him. So Thomas drove to look everywhere lookout point. High in the hills, the Navigator's engines puffed and purred. But no one could find Thomas. So Thomas stood by the turntable. Everyone was tired. Everyone tried their hardest, but there was still no sign of Thomas. Peeped Percy. All the engines agreed. Boom, said Thomas. Staring near how important Thomas was, he chuffed away thoughtfully. Stan arrived at the sidings. A train of freight cars was waiting for him, but Stan wasn't thinking about the freight cars. He was thinking about Thomas. Stanley thought back in the day when he saw Thomas pulling Annie and Clarabelle, and he remembered the evening at Titman's Sheds when Thomas was upset and because Stanley was in his berth. Then Stanley remembered Thomas's face after the accident. Stanley chuffed slowly. And Stan whooshed away to the hills. In the dark tunnel, Thomas was very scared. He watched and waved forward. His fire was gone out. His boy was cold. Stan was high up in the hills. He whistled, but it was only an echo came back. The river was rushing. Thomas whooshed with it into the darkness. Suddenly, he crashed through a thick wall of bushes and flew across the ravine and hit the ground with a bump. Thomas slid down a hill. Trees and rocks were everywhere. Thomas cried. At last, Thomas slithered to a stop at the bottom of the hill. He was stuck. Thomas saw he landed next to an old shack. He cried, but Thomas could nothing do his way and hope. Stanley had looked everywhere. He couldn't find Thomas. Soon he had to look back and to go to the Great Waterton. Thomas was thinking about Great Waterton. He thought about the tower, and the moment Stanley's freight car smashed into it, and the tower tumbled down. He puffed sadly. Thomas wished he was back with his friends. Stanley had to go back to Great Waterton. Stanley wished he whistled as long as loud. This time, Thomas heard a whistle. He gasped. With his very last puff and his very last huff, Thomas blew his whistle as loud as he could. Stanley heard Thomas. Quickly, he reversed back to the branch line. He whistled happily. Thomas had ran out of puff. He couldn't whistle again. He could only wait. Then Thomas saw Stanley shoved around the bed. He cried, whistled Stanley. Tooted Thomas sadly. Then Thomas told Stanley about his adventure in the mine. Stanley was amazed. Tooted Thomas. Stanley smiled. He wished. Soon, Stanley was hooked to Thomas. Then Stanley huffed and puffed. Thomas was very heavy. There were lots of water in his firebox. Stanley didn't give up. He wished. And with a mighty heave, Stanley pulled his friend back into the track. Tooted Thomas. Then there was a loud crack. The valve in Stanley's boiler had burst. Stanley was a very strong engine, but pulling Thomas happened too much. Now he couldn't move. Stanley felt very sad. Whistled Thomas. Stanley smiled. Thomas was his new friend. There was nothing Thomas wouldn't do for Stanley. The fire put Stanley's dry coal into Thomas's firebox. In no time at all, Thomas's boiler was bubbling and his steam was wishing. Thomas huffed happily. Stanley smiled back. And puff by puff, Thomas shunted Stanley along the track. It was very hard work. Thomas had to puff up the hills and huff through the bushes. But Thomas didn't mind. He was proud to push his new friend Stanley home. At last, Thomas and Stanley puffed to Great Waterton. Thomas was tired, but he never felt happier. Edward, Rocky, Edward, and Emily were busy working. They tooted and whistled, and they saw Thomas and Stanley. The sound of the engine's whistles echoed around Great Waterton. The news was spreading throughout Sorter. The small engines cried. The narrow gauge cutter beamed with pride. Terence told Harvey, and Harvey told Trevor. Bill told Ben, and Ben told Molly. They cheered and whistled. They felt joy. And all the Diesels met in the sidings. They couldn't believe such wonderful tidings. Percy told Gordon and Toby and James. Percy Price and named Arthur told Emily along the coast track. Miss Jenny told Jack, and Jack told his team. They cheered and screamed. Howard touched down and he found Bertie the bus. And Bertie hooted into and made such a fuss. and Birdie found Lady Hat, who was whooping her hand. Lady had told her husband, cranky out loud. Everyone cheered, and they were marvelous sounds. So Top of Hat approved very gladly. The next morning, Thomas puffed into Great Waterton. Percy and Stanley were working hard, helping rebuilding the tower. It was almost finished. Thomas smiled. Now he was happy. Stan came to Sorta. He had so many wonderful friends. He puffed to himself. Now they worked together happily together. Later, Sir Topham had arrived. The tower was finished. It looked magnificent. Beamed Sir Topham Hatt. Tooted Thomas. Said Sir Topham Hatt. Thomas smiled. Sorta day arrived. Staring chuffed proudly with the mayor. Thomas was pleading for his friend. The mayor, Sir Topham Hatt, and Lady Hat stood by the new tower. Then everyone looked up. They could hear the whir of a jet plane. It was Jeremy! He flew high in the sky and all over the town of Great Waterton. All the engines whistled and wheezed. Jack and his team cheered. Everyone clapped. Thomas smiled. He wanted to be the leader of the track. Puffed Tom was proudly, and he couldn't have been happier. Okay, guys, that's my end of my narrator lines. So, I hope you enjoyed this. So, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.